walnut. I like the sound of walnut very much.
No, that's just my incredible technique you're hearing.
We will be hearing. Yeah. So you normally use FaceTime with Steve?
Yep,
Okay.
with my phone,
All right.
but he doesn't record it.
He doesn't record any of the sessions.
No, no, no.
Okay. Yeah. So how are you? It's good to see you again.
Great. I'm
Excited to
good.
get into things here.
So curious.
Yes. So, uh, what I what I'm thinking of that we can do here is I think it would make more sense to get straight into the new motion, so that then you have something to compare it to when we start looking at the report of findings, rather than starting with the report and then you know there's not as much of a difference in what you're looking at in comparison to what we're going to be working into. So I think we could start with the motion. Uh, One thing that you're going to hear a lot is names for things that I have assigned those names to, or those different exercises or things or concepts, in an effort to have more of a vocabulary for the instrument, in the sense that we don't name anything with this instrument. There's no names for things. There's rudiments which have names, but there's no beyond like French grip, German grip, traditional grip, match grip. Beyond that, we don't name stuff enough in this music. We don't name shapes. We don't name rhythms, and so things become hard to standardize or to rigorize.
Mhm.
And so the first thing that I decided was we have to have names for the different types of grips of the stick or the different positions of the hand. Because within matched grip, there's all of this possibility.
Well,
And
and I think I'm glad that's where we're starting because this is where I think I really need focus.
hmm, this is a big
Because
point.
yeah, I understand like French, American, German grip, the shape, but like, where's the thumb go? How hard does the thumb squeeze?
Hmm.
The fingertips, all that sort of the little nuances.
Yeah, and a lot of the ideas on the correct implementations of those things were decided upon by people who had no understanding of the body. So it was kind of just do whatever feels natural to you, which doesn't really work until a point. Someone could say, all this stuff that I do, that I talk about, why? If someone can already play, why do you need to implement these things? Well, in your case, or like even in the case of someone like Jack DeJohnette or Lenny White, or someone like that who plays for decades and then develops injuries. Those injuries were being developed all along.
Mhm.
So I don't think anyone on earth is exempt from working on more technique,
Yep.
if as long as they know what to do with it, right? Because yes, of course, there are the people who just will learn more technique and they'll play like a robot. But if you already have a vision, if you know what you're trying to do with the music, then the technique is just a tool for you to be able to do what you're trying to do at a higher accuracy rate and feel better while you're doing it. Technique is vocabulary. That's something I firmly believe.
Mhm.
So within match grip, and we'll talk about traditional grip, but traditional grip involves some things that might aggravate this. So I want to hold on that for a minute. When we talk about match grip, what I've seen looking at drummers across generations, all the way from baby Dodds all the way to now, is we see four different hand positions, and there's a lot of variations of the four, but more often than not, we see four different hand positions. Uh, and I labeled them first through fourth in terms of the degrees of how drastically the motion changes. So, first position is like this. If you look at 1971, 72, Tony Williams, this is what you'll see. This hand position. Now, second position is like this. This is more 80s Tony, right? You'll also see, other drummers like Max, they'll play like this sometimes, right? This is a very very West African wave, holding the sticks. You find this in Senegal, you find this in Ghana. Third position is like this, right? This is, I think, very very common.
Can we go through the positions again, but with your hand like really close to the
Sure,
camera?
sure, sure.
'Cause this is where I get a little lost on like the very fine, because I don't see a big difference between one and two.
Oh, it's a difference in sound. It's a difference. It's a big difference. You'll see
No,
it
I
in
mean
the
I
picture.
literally couldn't see a difference.
So this is first. This is second.
Meaning what? Like take me through all the fingers, like exactly what you mean.
So the motion in first position comes from the back two fingers. The
Back
fulcrum
two
is
fingers.
the fulcrum is between the middle finger and the thumb, and the pointer finger is the horizontal support on the right side of the stick in French grip like this. You can see the inside of the palm. The motion is very finger flexion dominant like this, right? Or like this. Now, second position is the same concept, but with the stick rolled further into the palm. So it's a more closed hand position, still from the back of the hand, but it allows for a larger range of motion of the fingers to play louder. First position is really good for very soft and delicate playing. Second position gives you more power. Now, third position is a three-finger fulcrum version of second position, with the pointer finger acting as part of the fulcrum like this. The motion still comes from the back two fingers, right? And so you get this. And fourth position is third in German grip. You'll see this a lot, right? Now, within each one of these, there's two different types of motion that you'll hear me refer to a lot, which is active motion and passive motion. Active motion meaning that the whole hand is doing an equal amount of work per finger to move the stick, right? That the stick is in contact with the fingers at all times. The stick is not moving in a rebound dominant path as a way to get from one thing to the next. That you are in control of every note, no matter what the grip is. The fingers don't leave the stick. It's a very solid motion. Passive motion would be like this, where the fingers are leaving the stick. The rebound is what's actually creating the motion, and it's very difficult to
And you
control,
drop the
as you can
stick,
see.
of course, because
As
that's
you
what
can
happens.
see, right. So there's an active and passive version of each one of those grips, right? And it's very important to begin to feel the difference in those active and passive ranges, and we'll get into how to do that. They all sound different. They all are good for different things. There's not one that's better than the other. They're all important to use. And I use all four. But it's about knowing that each one has a certain use case. If you're only using third because you can't do second, first, or fourth, that's a very different thing. So what I saw in the assessment is generally we're working in passive fourth position like this, right? Elbow flexion dominant, wrist flexion dominant, without the flexion extension strength capacities built up in the fingers. And if you're trying to do this for speed or for dexterity, that's going to put undue stress on the elbow, because the fingers are what need to come into play to move the stick quickly or dynamically. And if that dexterity is not built up, then it's going to get offloaded to the next biggest group of muscles and joints after the wrist, which is the forearm and the elbow. So that makes very clear sense to me. I think what we can do, what would make the most sense to your hands to start in, would be third position. And then over time, we're going to work into second position, right? But it's a very different sort of motion working in second, because it will involve changing the fulcrum and changing the hand shape. I think to start in third, especially considering the left side, would, I think, make the most sense. Any questions so far?
No,
Great.
I mean,
So
I still, the differences in the grips are still subtle to the point of gray for me, but we'll get there.
when you know what they feel like, you'll really
Yeah.
feel how different they are, and they all sound different. If I were to hit the cymbal with each grip, you're gonna hear the difference. Now, there's also another version within the active range. So there's passive motion and active motion. Within active motion, there's two ideas for motion. One is a motion that comes from the hand, and one is a motion that comes from the arm. So they can be combined into one motion like this. But generally what we have is fingers only and elbow capsule rotation only, where instead of flexing from the elbow, I'm rotating from the elbow capsule. And you can see that when I go like this, there's contraction in the forearm. You can see that. As opposed to flexion, where you don't see that, and also my arm doesn't raise. Right? It may look like wrist flexion on camera, but if you look straight, I'm going up and down. So to get into this, there's a kind of a step-by-step to create the form in the hand. We're going to start with the elbow capsule rotation version, because generally I find that when you start with a compound motion, it's easier once you understand that to go to a smaller motion or move the motion forward into the hand. So the first step in this is going to be to understand the contact points of the stick with the fingers. So take your right hand and extend it out at a 90-degree angle like this, like you're going to shake somebody's hand, but in a way where you don't have to put any effort into holding up your arm. Right? Now, every finger, there's 3 joints. And here there's a crease on each finger on the palm, or on the palm side of your finger. Right? Take the stick and place the stick across that first joint of every finger.
The first towards the tip or the first towards the hand?
First towards the tip, like this.
Got it? Okay.
See this?
Got it?
And then take the thumb.
I lost your mic.
Sorry. How about now? Hold on. Take the thumb and line up the thumb with the middle finger.
Okay.
Right? You can hold the stick a lot farther back too.
Oops.
There we go. So you see this shape now, right? Now from this position, roll the stick back into the palm. Right? So from here, we're going like this. And to keep the middle finger and pointer finger in line with the thumb, not to do like that. It's not a thumbs up, we need to go like this. And if you need to create a split between the middle finger and ring finger to get that to happen, then that's fine.
So the thumb no longer lines up with the middle finger.
The thumb lines up with the middle finger and the pointer finger, like that. Yeah, now from that position, can you create
Do you want to see it closer?
I can see it. From that position, can you create more space between the middle finger and ring finger like this?
Sure.
Like Star Trek, going like this.
Yeah.
Right, so there's a
Okay.
split in the hand. Right?
Okay.
And then to roll the stick.
Wow, that's surprisingly difficult already.
The fingers are all the way wrapped around the stick. I'm not holding them like this, right? You can
So, but they're still on that first crease, though.
the fingers maintain contact with the first crease at all times. Yes.
And then the split, and then the thumb.
So this is the shape that we're looking for. Right? In French grip, right, with the now look at the shape I have here with the fulcrum. There's 3 vectors of support. There's the vertical support of the thumb. If I was in German grip, the thumb is now to the side. Now there's nothing holding the stick from leaving my hand like that. That's why passive motion in German grip is so uncontrollable. There's no vertical support, and then you have to pinch the stick like you were asking about, which you don't have to do like this. Then the middle finger and pointer finger provide horizontal support on both sides of the stick, the left side and the right side. So you're holding the stick in 3 different directions at once, like this. Right? So this is the shape of third position, just in a static state. We haven't assigned finger-based motion or an elbow capsule rotation-based motion to this yet. This is the default state of the hand in third position.
And am I doing it right here?
Yes, there's a couple things to mention that you can remember. One, you don't want to go like this with the thumb. You don't want to ride up on the thumb like this. The whole pad of the thumb is in contact with the stick at all time. the more you ride up, the more the shock absorption of the stick goes into the thumbnail. And then uh, if this joint is bent, if the distal joint of the thumb is bent, then you can get pain in here. Matter of fact, one thing I used to do, and I'm not saying to do this, but I used to take a popsicle stick, break it in half, and tape it to either side of my thumb to keep my thumb straight, so that I wouldn't be going like this, because I would be getting pain from going like this. So I mean that stopped happening a long time ago. But this is the shape in third position. Now from here, we have to bring it to the drum. Now, we're going to start just with the elbow capsule rotation motion, right? Now, without the stick in your hand, if you were just to go like this and rotate from the elbow capsule and hit the snare drum with the back two fingers. Right. And be very careful to not flex from the elbow. It's all rotation.
Wrist rotation.
Elbow capsule rotation. This is the motion we're working in.
Well, like this.
Right, but it's not a sideways thing. There is a slight bit of wrist rotation and ulnar deviation that you see here. Right, there is a slight bit of this motion, but the majority of the motion comes from this plane, as opposed to this plane. Is this actually? But if you look at me play, it's straight up and down. I think there's a misconception when I talk about elbow capsule rotation where there's a lot of people who think that I'm talking about doing this, but I'm actually talking about going straight up and down. Right, so this is the motion path that the stick will follow. And you see that my palm is always vertical, right? I'm not going like this or like this. It's always straight up and down. This involves ulnar deviation, yes. So there is a bit of wrist, but it's primarily elbow. Now, in that same path of motion, recreate the third position in the right hand and hit the drum in that same plane of motion.
Feels like wrist.
That would be, but that was French grip. No, excuse me, that was German grip, right? So you were going like this. So what I'm saying is to turn the arm over into this. That was elbow flexion.
I can't even hit it.
Take the stick out of your hand and do this. You see how you're raising your arm like this, right? What we're trying to do is just get the pronation and supination of the arm to create the motion rather than having to flex using the bicep and tricep.
But then it creates this.
Right, so that's where the wrist comes in. That's where the ulnar deviation and radial deviation of the wrist comes in, where you have this and this, right? This is from the wrist, right? So there is some of that involved. If the wrist were totally straight the whole time, it would look like this. But if I incorporate the wrist motion, the goal is that we can keep the stick in a vertical path the whole time. This actually maps very well to playing the cymbal. So almost you can think about how to play the cymbal on the snare drum.
I don't know.
Think French grip, whole time. We're always trying to keep the hand vertical and the stick in this plane.
I don't know.
Do it again. Do it again.
On a different camera angle?
No, it's fine.
It feels very unnatural.
You've been playing drums for what, 10 years? You said
20.
20 years. Okay, 20 years up against 14 minutes.
Right.
This takes time. This is a new thing for the nervous system.
No, but I mean, it feels like like I can't get past here.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to mention is you could afford to raise everything on your drum set by about 6 inches.
Raise?
Yep. That the bottom of your snare drum is in line with the top of your legs.
That's what you want it to be.
One thing that I'm a big proponent of is we have to conform the setup to the correct motion.
Right.
The way that you have the drum set up right now would be very easy to sit like this. Everything on my set is maxed out in terms of height and very close in, so when I sit down, if I sit like that, I can't hit the drums properly. I have to sit properly in order to actually hit them in the center. And it's the same thing with the cymbals. So the snare drum, I mean, this is an 8x14. The bottom hoop is in line with the top of my knee. So the drum is 8 inches above my legs.
Couldn't I achieve that by just lowering my seat?
Not the same thing, because then that's going to change the mechanics of the legs. That's going to change
Oh,
the
right.
mechanics of the lower back and the hips. You want to be able to create above 90-degree angles from the hips down to the where the like the top leg and the bottom part. Yeah, I think I see what's happening is see how you just played on the cymbal? Do it again on the cymbal for a second. Now, can you try and play through the cymbal more when you do it? And just play one note. You don't have to repeat them. You hear how those first two, the sound opened up more.
I did not notice that, no.
Really stay in the third position and play from the elbow capsule rotation, but try and play through the cymbal. And through the cymbal. Again. Hear that? It's the difference between these two. You'll hear the difference. It's this versus this. You hear the difference, right? And
Yeah.
what I'm doing in the second one is it's not a rebound based motion, but I am allowing the motion path to just follow gravity in a sense.
I guess so. I mean, the big thing is I never use French grip other than on the ride. So, because I use American on the snare.
That's where things can become difficult because
So you want me like this on the snare?
the thing with playing German grip or American grip only on every surface except for the ride cymbal is it's much harder to get around like this, right?
Yeah.
Because I have to then, I mean, if I'm going to go like this, then yes, you know, Max Roach. But that's not the only perspective on how to play a roll on a tom. This has a certain sound to it, which is very different from this. You hear there's actually a sharper transient in French grip, second position there. So if I play like this, versus, I didn't actually play any harder from the arm, but it sounds twice as loud.
It does.
Right? So that's why these things are so for example, I'll play one note per position. So this is one note in first position. Same thing in second position. You can hear the difference, and then change to third. Fourth. All back to back. you
You're
really
not
hear
hitting any harder or differently?
no, you
That's
really hear
wild.
you. Yeah, is that's how this acoustic instrument. You know, everything is gonna have an effect. If I play time, you really hear it. So I'll play time 4 bars of each one. You hear each one. There's it brings different overtones out in the cymbal.
Yeah,
It changes the actual transient attack of the note, right?
yeah,
And so it's exactly the same thing on the snare drum. It's I find it problematic sometimes when we in drum set pedagogy or education or practice or whatever it is try and map whatever worked on the snare drum to every other drum and then say the cymbal is its own thing. Well, I want a uniform sound.
right.
I would like for everything to have balance to it. That's the reason why everyone tunes their drums so low and plays all those type of chops on that tuning is because it wouldn't sound right if you tune the drums like very high. So there's a lot. I mean, that's why people want highly muffled drums because they want everything to sound like a bass drum. So I mean, that's a big part of it. But let's get back to the motion here. So this is what we're after. Do it on the cymbal again. Yeah, can you create more weight on the downstroke?
More weight.
Like the drum is this way. You know, play. Yeah, you hear the difference when you're not trying actively to think about an upstroke. The sound is much fuller,
Right.
right? So
Well,
so this
that's because I'm constantly being told that upstrokes are so important.
the drum is that way, not that way. We
Right.
gotta
No, but for being able to move and to orchestrate,
yeah.
the
I mean
upstroke is the,
that works if you're playing timpani. You know that works if you want that sound out of the toms. Uh,
right.
but a lot of this has to do with force generation and projection because that works for a certain sound, but that's not going to carry as much as this, right? If I play from the same height,
Am I snapping at all with my
there's
fingers?
so at this point there's no fingers involved in the motion at this point. We're gonna add it in a minute. But remember to keep the hand in French grip because you're sliding to American. Try to keep it like this.
It's so much thinner with French grip.
It's so much thinner for now. It's thinner for now because you've been reliant on one type of motion, and now we're
Okay.
just working with something different,
Okay.
right? So yes, of course, this is going to have a different type of power than this, right? This is going to have a different type of power than this. But if you're trying to play upstrokes from the elbow, it's not the same feeling as playing, well, elbow flexion versus rotation. Like if you're going like this versus like this feels much more controlled and efficient as opposed to this.
I mean, am I doing it right? Like,
Do it again.
I,
Can you turn the hand over so that the palm is facing the left wall?
yeah. Oh, it's just so foreign.
It takes time. This is a brand new thing for your nervous system. You know, it took me quite a while to understand how it's supposed to feel. So
Yeah, I guess I don't understand the elbow rotation part of it. Like I get it going like this, but
Right.
then is
That's it.
this right?
That's
This.
that looks much better, but then to take the flexion out of it. So instead of going like this, you move that motion just as it rotates. Right.
Hold on.
See?
All right, and that takes the pointer finger off the stick. Is that okay?
No, not necessarily. That would then be in second position. So we want to keep it like this for now. Right.
Yeah, fucking A, man. Yeah. All right. Like I want to go like this, and then I can do it. But that's not what you want.
That's not it.
Is
French
that right?
French grip. If we really look at the positioning, American grip we go like this, German grip we go like this. French grip is like this,
Right.
right? That's what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Is this is
Like literally.
this is the position.
You have to rotate your elbow. It's the only way to get the thing onto the head. Is that looking better?
That is elbow rotation. Yeah, that is elbow capsule rotation. What you're doing. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what I can see just visually is that your nervous system is very, very, very used to doing a very specific type of motion,
Yeah.
and then mapping that motion to everything. And
Yeah.
this is something very foreign. So it does take time to adjust. That's it's just when one thing that I have thought about in terms of learning new skills from a nervous system perspective is when you're doing something for the first time, it's not necessarily that you can't do it. It's that that requires a sequence of motor tasks that you're not familiar with yet. There's muscles don't inherently store memory. That's nervous system when we talk about muscle memory, right? But that's a big part of that. The reason why I might have said this before, but the reason why you already can play most of the things that you know how to play is because you know how they feel. The same way that you know how it feels to say certain words. You don't have to sound out every syllable of a word that you say every day. It's the same thing.
Oof. Oh my god.
Let's see again with the right side. So the main thing you're going to want to focus on with that is to keep the motion path as vertical as possible. Yeah.
Steve has me do this sort of thing
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
with two sticks.
Yep. That's a very important thing, especially now. I would say you can definitely experiment with that with this.
I mean, it's feeling better already.
Right? So repetition legitimizes in this context. I mean, I used to move like this,
Right.
and I trained myself out of that into first position dominant
That's
motion.
more like me.
Right. So there's like I said, in the assessment phase, there's from what I saw in your assessment, wasn't anything that I have never seen before or haven't
Right.
experienced myself.
Right.
These are very, very common, pervasive things. The
Yeah.
challenge in this case is that there is now this precedent of an injury to the left side. And while the other people who are playing in this way, so statistically 100% of people are playing in this way, they may have not injured themselves, but they're moving in ways that are laying the groundwork for the exact type of issue that you're dealing with currently and have been dealing with. That's why this stuff is so important. So that's why understanding the body in relation to the instrument is literally the most important thing. More important than here's how to play this beat or here's how to do this polyrhythm or no, how about here's how to play the drums? That's really what it's about, right?
Yeah.
So it's about that vertical motion. There's a bit of ulnar deviation in there, which is this. But you're not, I think the mistake that some people make is they think I'm doing this. And that's not what I'm doing. I'm rotating from the arm, right? And one way that you can, but there's also like, it's almost like I'm slightly going like this with my hand. Because if I'm going like this, then when I create the shape, look that my pointer finger is now perfectly in line. Right? So if I was like this, now you see the hand is more like that. I'm trying to get the pointer finger to be perfectly in line with the forearm. Right? So that's another thing. That's very important. So I think at that point with the right side, the verticalness, but then putting power behind it is going to be trying to play through the drum, trying to activate the shell, right? Because from what I'm seeing right now, the motion and the sound are not one thing yet. There's the motion and the sound, and they're separate concepts. The motion is the sound. It's not like I'm bringing my. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say that the difficulty is like I get the elbow rotation like this, but that directly contradicts the verticality of the stick. It's almost like the wrist is doing the opposite thing to keep the stick vertical. Does that make sense?
There's some parts of this that don't make sense until they do, and this is one of them. There's another thing with the fingers in open close, which we'll get into a couple sessions from now once this is really together. That's very much like this concept.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
looking at me straight on, like here's twisting, right?
Right.
As opposed to this, which makes sense for verticality. So, but how the fuck do you do both?
That's then where the wrist and the fingers come into play, right? So I am doing this, but I'm creating a hand shape that takes the stick from a forward motion to a side to side motion to a forward motion. You know what it's like? It's like the drive shaft in a truck, right? How there's a, or like it's like a double bass pedal. Okay, here's a perfect example. I have this thing. I have this. This will illustrate my point perfectly. Right? The wrist is like this. Right? So the arm is rotating like this, but the wrist is moving
Right.
like that.
Yeah, and they're like they counterbalance one another.
In a way, yes. I mean, the motion is not.
Sounds like shit.
It's better now. Now do it on the simple. You hear it, right? It sounds different than it did before.
Well, it makes more sense over there than it does over here.
Right. Of course it makes more sense, but it also makes more sense because try it slower. Try just.
But you want a downstroke or a full stroke?
Just the downstroke for now.
That's easier.
Right? It's making more sense the more you're doing it.
it makes sense theoretically. It's not somatic sense yet, but it's
That's
yeah, and I could also see how that completely changes the dynamic of the elbow pain.
that's what I'm saying. Full strokes,
Completely.
elbow
Like
flexion, dominant
the
full
difference
strokes
between this
only.
and this, I mean, it's a completely different set of muscles.
So let's now go to the left side. If you were to create the same process like this, create the third position, map what your right hand looks like to your left hand,
Yeah.
and see if you can play with that same motion from the left side now.
Man, getting the split between the middle and third finger is tough.
Mm. Here's why that's really important to be able to do. The further back your middle finger goes past the thumb, the less emphasis the back two fingers have to do any work, right? So if I'm playing like this, where there's a massive split between the middle finger and ring finger like that, you see? See this? Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
If I'm playing like this, where there's a massive split,
Yeah.
the back two fingers have to move the stick, but the further I go back with the middle finger, now the middle fingers become the lever and I don't need to use my back two fingers anymore. So the split in the hand is really important to allocate force to the right place, or to allocate finger flexion in the right instances, because from this position is very different than this. Then the middle finger becomes the dominant lever, and then the smallest and closest gear to the biggest gear, which is the wrist, is basically offline once I'm here. So you lose a lot of power. And then you're asking
That's bad.
You're asking your middle finger to do the job of two other fingers that are now inactive. That's why it's important. So now try
All right,
with the
let's
left
try.
side.
I'm
But
still like
yeah, but
not vertical.
remember the French grip, right? Because you're very used to going like this, right? So now doing this,
Yeah,
this
but
does.
French grip makes my wrist flexion happen, not this. That's
Well,
the thing that's so confusing.
but I'm saying there is a bit of wrist flexion, like I was saying before. You can see there's this.
Right.
The wrist is not completely straight with the arm; it's slightly like this. Now, there is a time and a place for this, right? This has use case going like this, right? For example. So that's, or going like, doing things like that. That involves that. Do it slower, much slower, and just the downstroke.
Give me some feedback here.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Well, I see that muscle lighting up right there,
Yes.
which we want.
See if you can remain in that vertical.
I just naturally move it into American grip, though.
Yeah, I mean it's. Okay, here's another one. You don't want to end up doing this. Right? There's sometimes when people play on a cymbal, they basically turn their hand over. This works if you're not using your fingers. Because if I were to try and use open close or play any note more than one note with the hand like this, I'm not going to be able to move the stick back and forth. Like from this perspective, going like, it doesn't work. I have to create that same position on the snare drum to be able to go like. It doesn't work if I'm going. Right. So instead of thinking like this, that same analogy of the drive shaft of a double bass pedal. It's the same thing, where there's this omnidirectional almost, or this ball and socket here. That's the wrist. This is the arm. So that if the wrist is like this, that when the arm rotates, it's functioning the same way. So I'm doing this, but then as I come down, there is wrist flexion, right, to get the arm in line. Now, I'm not going like this either. It's very subtle, right? If you
Yeah,
see
man. I almost like this would be a lot easier in person.
it is what it is. It's looking
Well, I'm trying to
decent now.
get like I'm trying to get like because now I can see my left arm here, and it's interesting to see which muscles change with which.
All that's gonna have an effect on the sound. All of it.
This is this is what you want. Like this is French, this is vertical,
Yes.
but it's not this.
It's that up into the wrist. From the wrist on, it's more of what you're doing before. Right.
Yeah, it's so hard to do both things at the same time. They counteract each other.
It's just like this. It's just like that.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, but dude, like that's not in my body.
Yet, and the more you do it, it will be.
Yeah, but I can't even like theoretically like vertical with French grip is like this. It's all wrist.
Yes, that's only
How to
deviation.
then get the rotation in? I'm so confused about.
Can you see this? When you're rotating, there is motion in the wrist. If I were to keep my hand like this, you see that when I'm moving, there is only deviation of the wrist in the elbow capsule rotation motion. I'm doing both at the
How's
same
that?
time. Right, now can you just go from this to this?
From what to what?
So from doing it like this to just doing it like that. Right, so instead of this, I'm saying just go like this.
This?
Now put the stick in your hand and try.
That's right though.
That looks better. Yeah, try it now.
Jesus Christ, bro.
Right? So that looks a lot better.
Okay.
It doesn't sound better, but it looks better. And that's, in this case, more important right now.
Dude, I have the like I will bring a pad and sticks to Italy and like we should make sure that I'm doing whatever the fuck while I'm there to train this.
I will send you the program today. So the first program today. So yeah, at this point, well, I'll get into what the program is.
What the fuck? So
You remember this from the snare drum. It's the same idea. Yeah. Yeah. What's happening right now, this is just clearly, it's a singular issue. We're just dealing with an untrained nervous system. That's literally what it is.
not that. Not that.
It's not this. It's not that. It's
See, you can see that muscle right there.
it's not this. See this motion?
Yeah. That's what you want.
This is what we're going for. Try it again.
I'm like rotating.
Yeah. Focus more on the downstroke.
double hitting.
Slow it down more so you can really get into the motion.
Is that right? I have no idea.
It's in the ballpark.
God,
That's better. What you just yeah. But remember to not turn the hand over. It's not this, you know. It's still this. Doing this.
feels terrible.
It's better than it was 10 minutes ago. So there's that. This stuff takes time. This is a whole other your nervous system has a singular idea of how it should feel to play the drums. And this is a foreign version of doing the same motor task or the same sonic outcome, if you will.
Like
Right?
this feels better without the stick, and this seems more right, right?
Mhm. That looks correct.
Like what muscle should I feel it here?
You're gonna feel it all throughout. There's
Yeah.
there's like 5 or 6 different muscles in here that all connect, and the tendons that go down through the fingers. You're gonna feel it throughout this entire area, and depending on what you work, you're gonna feel it on the underside of your arm as well. Um, so what you just want to make sure of is that it's not acutely painful in a bad way in any specific area. But you'll feel the burn, yeah. If you're really doing it powerfully, you'll feel it in here.
All right.
Yeah. So you'll have this video. I'm going to send it to you. You can go back and watch. And if you like, I can make a video of me demonstrating the form. And you can match what I'm doing to what you're doing, if that would be helpful.
Yes.
So, any other questions so far about the hands?
No, sir.
All right. So, let's go now to the fingers version of this. So, we're going to re-implement elbow flexion as a means to understand how to move the hand before then removing it. Sometimes what happens is if you use a compound motion or a rebound based motion or a molar based motion to understand something that is required to be played using open close or a single close or an active version of any of those previous techniques, it works. You go like, for example, and this is unrelated to what we're about to do, but it is important to mention. Like, let's say, for example, I wanted to play continuous open close 2 in my left hand and continuous open close 3s in my right hand. So over this, the hands are going to be opening and closing at different rates. Now, if I can't do that and think about opening one hand and closing the other, like I've mentioned before,
Yep.
I have to then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a much larger motion, not use the hands at all. I'm going to use molar to accent where opens would be to understand how it's going to line up. So I'll start actually like this. So let's say if I was here, a huge motion like that, and then over time, I start incorporating some fingers in a passive range. And then over time, I move that motion from the biggest compound movement possible as it becomes more and more comfortable down to just my hands, and then I can do it from just the hands. Right? So it starts big, and the more comfortable it gets, then you can move it further and further down the chain until you can just use your fingers for the most micro version of independence. But that starts big, right? It starts as a big motion. So that's something, or you can use rebound to learn open close. We're going to get into that next time. But we're doing the same thing now with the fingers, where what we need to get to is, instead of this now, we need to get to this. So there is the snap, but it's a little bit different from maybe how you've been thinking about it in the past in a couple ways. Firstly, the departure and return point in the palm is the same, right? So if I'm going like this, no good. The stick needs to leave and come back to the same place. And second, the fingers are always around the stick like that. There's no like U shape like this. And I'm still always on that first crease up towards the fingertips. The further you go back in the hand, the harder it will become and the less power you'll have. You need to stay up here in order to really get it. So the motion without the stick in my hand is like this. Can you see that?
Yep.
So with the stick in my hand, and even when I'm here, all the fingers are on the stick. Try it out. So I'm opening my hand on the downstroke and closing at the moment of impact.
See, but I'm releasing them.
But that's open close. That's open close too. I'm saying that motion, just do the second note of it. Just this. This is a single close. We're not worried about that. We're doing just this. But close into the note. So don't go like this. Don't go and then close the hand. It's got the close and the note are the same thing. But remember this. Still vertical. Again? Yeah. Do it on the cymbal for me.
Do a what?
Try it on the cymbal.
On this?
On the right cymbal. Take out the upstroke. We're just going for this. One of the other big things, I'll say this, one of the other big things that seemingly nobody can do is to play a single note from the fingers with active motion and then stay there and not move. Right? A lot of times what you see is people will play open close and they have to, there's some sort of course correction once they open the hand. They go like, you know, or something like that. How about doing this? But right now, we're just doing this. All right, try it again.
I would just call that a downstroke.
But if you look at the motion of the hand, it's a single close. It's the close portion of an open close too. So if I were to open my hand, well, we're just doing the second version, the second note, or the close. Now, as you're doing that, I want you to put as much awareness as you can on that first crease as a contact point and make sure that every finger is in contact with the stick the whole time. Right now, this is what happens. Doing the snare drum now?
Yeah. That's so terrible.
Now pause and look at your hand. Is there a space between the thumb and the pointer finger? like this.
No.
That's very important. So when that space goes, then you've effectively lost your vertical support because now the thumb is off to the side of the stick close to the pointer finger. There always is a space in the hand there. It's very important.
That space.
Yes, that needs to maintain. The only time when that's not there is when you're playing a piano. Remember, vertical.
Dude, I cannot do it vertical.
Look at the motion from the front with the fingers. The stick is vertical up and down. You see I'm rotating from my arm. I'm using my fingers to close around the stick, right? And I'm using a little bit of wrist and elbow flexion and ulnar deviation of the wrist to get the motion. But
That feels better.
it's not necessarily this. I'm doing this.
I don't know how to keep it vertical.
If I take out the arm and I'm just doing it from my hand, just doing it from my fingers, you see how important the pinky now becomes, right? I can do it just with the pinky.
What?
Right? Look. That's how consequential that is. You know? So just playing from here. Very important. That's where the motion comes from. Right? But then to do this. Or this.
No way. The stick will drop.
It will drop today. I keep saying this. We're dealing with an untrained nervous system. When you don't proprioceptively know the difference between the feeling of finger flexion, wrist flexion, elbow flexion, and shoulder flexion, or wrist rotation, elbow capsule rotation, shoulder rotation, or pronation, supination of the arm, those things are very important to know how they feel. Like, for example, if I were to sit in this seat and I were to rotate or twist from my spine all the way to the left side, or if I were to do this, if I do the same thing standing, I know how to do that without using my legs, without going like this, right? There's a big difference between fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder, right? And when you know how each one of those feel, then these subtle differences become not so subtle. They become really distinct from one another. The same way that, like, if I'm going to go like this with my arm, if I'm going to go like in a circle, I know that I'm not doing this with my core. I know that I can block out just the shoulder and do that. Or, like, for example, if I'm going to hold my arm out like this, and I have the wrist rotation like that versus elbow capsule rotation versus shoulder rotation.
Yeah.
Right? So if I were to just do this, that's from the elbow capsule, but this is from the shoulder, right? And then this is from the wrist.
Yeah.
And then this is the fingers. So that's very, very important to build that awareness. That's going to make all the difference because each one of those sounds different, each one of those feels different. And as we very well, unfortunately, know in this moment, overuse of one as compensation for not being able to do another can lead to injury.
Yeah, but I'm not getting any of this.
That's not part of the motion.
Oh.
Because from the fingers, I can play from the fingers without moving anything else, if you see.
Okay, so we're not adding this to the first motion. This is now a new thing that
This
we're working
is a new thing.
Oh, okay, that
Now,
makes more sense.
You can put them together. You can absolutely put them together. See if you can see this. Right, if I were to just play it from the fingers. but that close is into the note. It's not like I'm closing my hand before the note. I'm closing my hand when I hit it. Remember that space. Yep. Now pause. Look at your hand. Look what grip you're in. It's American grip. Now, use some elbow flexion this time. Try and make it a larger grip, like I said. But this time, as you come down, open the hand. You're coming down like this.
You want that?
Yeah, for now. How does that feel in comparison to before?
Sloppy as shit. I mean, I guess.
Just play the downstroke. You don't have to do a full stroke.
Dude, I'm sorry. I've been so trained to do upstrokes that.
Yeah. Yeah. Better. Yeah.
I can kind of kick the stick out, and that puts it back into position.
Yeah, but also, but you want to make sure, because what I'm seeing is the pinky's kind of like that. You want to be like more like this. It's this maintains at all times. This first crease of the finger. I think the stick might be further back past that first crease. Take a look at your hand. But look at it while it's in the open position on the way down to the drum. Try with the left hand now. See what you can do there. Without the stroke, though. Yep. Okay, so do you see how when the stick comes down, it looks like this?
Yeah.
There's some. That's because the fingers are leaving the stick. Take a look at the left hand. Ready? But see if you can generate more force from the fingers. Okay, yeah. So I see what's happening. It's the same thing as the right. The motion and the sound are not together yet. They're not connected.
No shit.
So is this that we're after, where if you were to hold your hand like this,
Like a whip it, the more of a whip, like a Muller almost.
actually molar and open close are inversely correlated. They don't involve each other in their motion paths.
How does this look? Dude, I think maybe just raising the fucking snare is gonna be a huge help here.
Let's do
It's
something.
like this feels good to about here.
Right.
But then when I want to go lower, I feel like I gotta add extra force.
We have a couple minutes left. I want to do something here. If you were go back to the beginning when we had this motion, just holding your arm at a 90-degree angle, like this, without the stick in your hand. Now sit in a way where your spine is over your pelvis, where instead of like this, it's like this, right? So I'm not trying to sit I'm just in a way where the spine's over the pelvis like this. Now take the arm, put it slightly behind the torso like that. Now put the stick in your hand and close your hand. Okay, now if you were to bring the stick down to the same angle as your elbow, like this, that is where your snare drum should be.
It's not even close.
Let's change it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this feels pretty good when I'm stopping here, but then this extra fucking 5 inches is killing me.
Let's try it out. If you were to raise it,
I'll raise it right now.
Let's try it. Is that an airlift throne?
Yeah.
Okay. I would also say to put that as high as it goes.
That's always as high as it goes.
Okay. We're gonna have to raise everything, but that's kind of the point.
Oh shit! Fucking fell out. Shut up, Billy. Billy, shut up.
You could also afford to angle the snare drum flat.
Flat.
Or slightly away from you as if it were traditional grip.
Or slightly away, like Dan Weiss.
Towards the floor tom slightly. Yeah.
That's pretty flat.
Yeah. Bring it to if you were to rotate it so that the tilter is facing the floor tom. And then just angle it slightly towards the floor tom.
Like that way. This way.
Yes.
That way.
Yes. Just slightly.
Wait. That's this way. Like that.
No, the other way. How you had it before.
No, that's angled away from the floor tom.
Keep rotating it. I'll tell you when to stop.
Well, then I'm going to lose my... Here, I'll take it out. That's the opposite way you want it.
No, that's what I'm saying, because we're going to change it after that. So keep rotating it. I'll tell you when to stop rotating. Stop. Go back a bit now.
Back? What do you mean?
Back the way you came. So
rotate.
Yes. Now stop.
Yeah.
Now rotate the drum towards the floor tom so that the high end of the drum is next to the hi-hat and the low end is facing the floor tom. And it's very, very subtle. Not very much. That's fine. That's fine. And you might have to mess with it a bit just to get it where you want it. Hi-hat, same thing.
What do you mean, same thing?
To raise the hi-hat.
But this is at a pretty steep angle here.
Yeah, so you might want to rotate it a bit just so it's facing you slightly. Like that. Yeah.
All right, this is pretty high, I think.
Yeah. Now get the hi-hat to be comparable in height to where it was before with the snare drum. And it might feel awkward to do this at this point, but I'm saying it's much better to get used to this than to go back to the way it was before.
This is so high.
But you see how it feels for this type of technique. It keeps you in a posture where you can actually generate more force, right?
It's making me do rim shots.
Well, that's another thing is that now you can't roll your shoulders forward. You have to play like this now. Right? Now let's do what you would want to do at this point is match the height of the floor tom to the height of the snare drum.
That high.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe if you want, you can angle the floor tom slightly uh, in towards you. But yeah, I mean, the problem I deal with is that Gretsch doesn't make floor tom legs that are long enough, so I have to use DW floor tom legs and put them on like 1 inch high wooden platforms to get them to be high enough, and all the legs are maxed out on height. So, I mean, all the stands and everything, yeah. DW makes 27-inch long legs, so I'll probably end up getting 2 sets of those.
Well, that's a lot higher. And then what about my ride?
We're gonna get to that in a minute. So, is that in line now with how high your snare drum is?
Yeah, they're pretty much pretty similar.
Okay. Now, what's the leg that's? See the leg that is in front of your shoe right now?
Yeah.
So just decrease the height of that one by maybe like 1/2 inch, and then stop.
Okay, it's got a little angle now.
That might feel, you have to kind of mess with it a bit, but that might feel much more natural now. Natural, I mean, in terms of moving forward. Now for the mounted tom, same thing. So hit the snare drum once in third position, elbow capsule rotation. Right, now take your arm and just go like this, and so go from here to here. Right. So what you might want, well, definitely what you want to do is decrease the forward angle of the tom. Right, because with the drum angled that severely towards you, you're going to be playing into the head. You want to decrease the angle.
Flatter.
Not that flat. There is.
Oh, but I gotta go down now. Right?
Yes. Yeah, man, those Noble and Cooley walnuts sound very good. I've been thinking about those drums a lot, and I was going to look into getting some, but
they're also gorgeous.
I found out that they don't do solid shell or single ply walnut kits, and that's what I want. I want a single ply walnut kit, not just a snare drum or a ply walnut. I want the whole.
Steve is selling. Well, he has a walnut, but he's selling his maple Craviato right now.
Yeah, I got enough maple drums. I want walnut.
I can get it lower.
Yeah,
here?
you want it lower than that.
I need my key though. Jesus Christ. Does this not go lower? What's going on here? Is it this?
Looks like it's memory locked, no?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so bring up the angle a bit from that. Like stop about there.
Yeah.
You want it in a way where you can still play a rim shot on the mounted tom. That's kind of the idea. Because the drums, and these are timbales where the toms are supposed to be, or traditionally, but they're still set up where I can hit a rim shot on both, but they're very low down. You don't want it to be in a position where you stab the side of the drum if you miss. But that looks a lot better, like a lot better.
That's not too high?
No, it'd be too high if the whole drum was above the snare drum. Remember, you want to play in a way, or you want to set your drums up in a way where you have to sit correctly behind them in order to hit them. That's really important. Now, the ride.
That takes knowing sitting correctly.
What'd you say?
Wow, dude, really? Like this? How do I not only? That's not too high?
That's fine. Maybe if you want to lower it by an inch. But remember, it's too high when you're playing in German grip. Right? Their French grip is very different. Same thing. Create the third position shape, like you're going to shake someone's hand and put it in your stand with the right hand now. So just hold the stick like this. So go like this. Same thing. Like that. Now hold the right hand like this. But I mean, like, rotate out slightly from the shoulder. That is where your symbol should be. If you were to bring your hand down, that's where your symbol should be.
All the way over there to the right?
Well, not so far over, but more in terms of the height of it.
But here, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Holy fuck. My shit is set up all sorts of fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, a lot of this could be the pain just straight away having this shit off. See, all right, look, I love Steve. I just had a great lesson with Steve, but like his thing is kind of like you should be able to play a toy kit the same way you'd play a kit perfectly set up to yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people like to say those things, but they don't understand the difference in environmental architecture of the drum set and how that's going to shape the biomechanics that you bring to it and how you play it.
How's that?
You might want to bring it up a bit more than that.
Like up a bit more. Oh my god. Bro, okay, that's up.
Keep going. You can bring it up more.
More up. Okay.
Right. Now, here's the other thing. Bring it in closer towards you.
Okay.
Not so far that it's over your floor tom, but far enough in that you don't have to reach for it. And now angle the cymbal slightly towards the mounted tom, just very slightly.
This way?
The other way.
That way. Oh, the mounted tom. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if you hit the cymbal, that's going to feel totally different. It's going to feel like you can put force into it now.
Okay. Dude. Too close.
I was going to say it's too close. Right? So that now you're sitting in a way where now the drum set is conformed to a correct posture, where now you can breathe properly when you play. And if you sit,
sounds a lot better.
Right? This is see how high.
You sure this still feels high?
You could bring it down by maybe about an inch, but I wouldn't go any lower.
But not angle it.
Don't angle it. Just decrease the height.
Why won't this guy go down? Is it not supposed to?
Because that's a clip type mount. So
but it's like it won't let me go lower for some reason. Like this is as low as this part. Oh, this thing. I see.
It's memory locked.
Where'd my key go? What's my key? All right, so we're over. Let's talk about like what am I doing now?
Sorry,
what are the exercises?
Once you adjust this, we'll talk about that.
All right. Ah, there.
That's well, bring it up a little more than that. A little more than that. Stop. Yeah, that's good.
Man, 2 years with Steve, he never once did anything ergonomic like this.
I mean, hey, look. Like I said, I've never met him. I respect that he has a really developed method, but if you're not addressing things from a biomechanical perspective, then
oh, that feels good.
Right, right. You have to
Here,
address
something
those
that
from
happens
perspective.
a lot, like if I'm going this way, like I'll catch my stick on the ride, like
So you can bring the floor tom in closer to your leg and maybe
this way.
yeah. Or another thing you could do would be to put your cymbal up higher and then angle it more towards you.
Higher still. Wow, it sounds so much better, dude.
Yeah, yeah, because now you're not playing in the floor. You know, this cymbal
Where's
is
your ride?
right here.
That high.
Yeah, well, also here.
What's that? What's that down there?
This what this?
Yeah.
This is a line cymbal.
Oh, so that you're not riding that.
I mean, of course, you know. But see, it's on the same stand as my main right cymbal, right? So it's right below it. Yeah, but then it's also there's I mean every cymbal is a right cymbal, right? So there's this, there's this.
I want the angle is such that. Do I want to put this thing on here? Because I usually don't put these on here.
Yeah, you want to. I mean, I have them on all of them. You know, just
I
to
do
give you.
want it.
Yeah.
That doesn't dampen the resonance of the cymbal, though.
No. No.
I don't even know where those fucking things are. I have to dig them out.
Because you see how this cymbal is angled very much towards me, this one here, but I'm still able to hit it in a way where I don't have to reach for it at all. So you want to get the washer for it, the felt and the washer.
I'll find it. It's somewhere. I just
Yeah.
don't want to waste time.
But that for how you sit and how tall you are and how you're built, that's how you should set your drums up.
Okay. I like having a rim shot there. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So the first program is going to consist of what we talked about today. We have to start with conditioning before we can talk about speed or power or anything like that. We have to build the motion first and foremost. So the very first thing is going to be in third position, single note practice, 5 minutes per form. So 5 minutes in third position from the elbow capsule per arm, 5 minutes in third position from the fingers only per arm. And then what I want you to do, and I know you won't have access to your drums while you're away, but while you do have access to your drums, to take that same motion and then this, those two, and I want you to practice in an improvisational context, just playing quarter notes on every surface on your drum set with that motion, right? Because one of the big problems that we see is that we only ever talk about how to play the snare drum, and then the technique falls apart when we have to go to the toms of the cymbal. So
Yeah.
we have this, but then to get around. Because what that's also preparing us to work on is mapping intelligence, getting from one surface to the next. You remember those tests 1 2 2 4, 4
Yeah.
1 1 2. That's
All the
preparing
tests I
us.
failed.
That's where that's what that is also preparing us for, because it doesn't just work if it only works on just the snare drum. A lot of the innovations that we saw, if you look at Max and Philly Joe, and Art Blakey and all the other great players, Roy, they all were thinking rudimentally, but the orchestrations were across drums. Case in point, single stroke 4. Now Kenny Clark would just play on the snare drum, but Max Roach would go. Right? So there's use case for all these things, or Art Blakey, Well, that's mapping intelligence. 1 2 1 4 1 2 1 4. That's an open circuit going 1 2 1 4 1 2. So
I'm working on Billy Boy.
Ah. Brush it somewhere. That's a great tune.
Oh, this lick right here. That one. I'm not used to this setup now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and how the two notes that Philly Joe plays at the beginning of the solo.
And then I'm playing it in triplets.
How's
So that way I can't do it yet.
Yeah, I'm working on things like that now, but I'm working on it with the left foot on the bass drum and the right foot on the hi-hat. So now what I'm working on now is playing the bass drum across every beat of the triplet while keeping time with the right foot on the hi-hat. I can't do it yet because I just started working on it yesterday, but
You're doing more with your right foot there?
I'm playing the hi-hat with the right foot and the left foot on the bass drum. Yeah.
So reverse. That's crazy.
Yeah. So the
wait, are you gonna send me because I got to roll here? Are you sending me a document or something?
I'm going to send you this recording so you can reference it for form. And anytime you have questions about form, before you reach out, just check the video and see if the question can be answered there. If it can't, reach out to me and I'll put some resources together as soon as I can. I'm also going to send a PDF of the actual training, which at this point, like I said, is just conditioning. Now there's with a pad, you don't get the same response as a drum, but it's those pointers. I think the most important things to think about is we're always in French grip. The motion path is vertical. There is ulnar deviation and wrist flexion in the motion for the elbow capsule rotation version of third position, but it's not the leading dominant starting point for the motion. And with the fingers, it's about maintaining the contact with that first crease at all times, to always make sure that you're here.
You do want the fingers to release while maintaining contact.
Yes,
it's
so
not
the hand opens and closes, but the fingers never leave the stick.
And it's just downstrokes.
Just downstrokes. And I would actually say to refrain from implementing upstrokes for now, because we're really trying to focus on getting a full sound out of the drum, at the biggest sound possible. Because even if I were to just hold the stick here and drop my hand, that's a very big sound. Just, yeah, huge, right? It's just gravity. Now, how can I get that same sound, but from here, is elbow capsule rotation. And it's just about, and now I can get that same sound from here from just the fingers. It's all about fingers formation, right? That's just fingers, right? And then elbow capsule. And then from here.
Well, it's easier there. That makes sense. It's applying both verticality and the elbow capsule rotation to the snare is the hard thing. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, there also is, with the snare drum, there is internal rotation of the shoulder to get actually into the center of the drum. So that may also be part of why it feels different.
Ah. So elbows, how close to the body?
Not super in. I mean, there is space. Matter of fact, if you look at videos of Tony, especially like in the late '70s and '80s, you'll see him do this when he plays rolls. Like there's this.
Dude, I watched a video of Brian Blade and he had his arm up here and I was like, I gotta stop watching this.
Yeah, well, Brian Blade, I don't think he's thinking about things like a drummer.
I understand.
You know what I mean by that? I'm not saying he can't play. I think he's a very tasteful player. I just don't think he's thinking about things the same way. I think he's coming at it from a very different perspective.
Wow, well, there's no bet. I mean, if I had 1 millionth of his sound, I'd be happy.
The thing that we're doing now, this sort of practice, is great because it's applicable to whatever you want. This is not a sound like this person method. It's about here's the way. You hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
This is a way to create a certain type of force generation that has a certain sound to it of intentionality and focus and clarity. And so a lot of times when people talk about a beautiful sound, they're talking about a sound where you can hear everything that's happening. You know,
so wait a second. It is easier if I like kind of flail the elbow out. I can do it better.
You don't want to do that though, because then we're dealing with abduction and adduction of the shoulder, and then the motion becomes really big. Now we're using the shoulder to play. This doesn't work for speed. You know, so the idea is we're trying to train basically a blank slate motion. We haven't assigned a use case to the motion yet, so it has to be as middle ground as possible. We're not worried about dynamics or speed or anything like that. We're just worried about the actual form being as strong as possible and that becoming automatic.
How's that look?
Yeah. Now bring it to the snare drum.
Fuck, I almost feel like my snare should be even a little higher still.
Does it go any higher though?
Probably not. I could maybe squeeze another inch out of it.
Yeah, I mean,
I could make the feet closer together so it's higher.
Yeah, but then it could fall over, and that's the thing.
Yeah, well,
we don't need anything.
I'm gonna play with it. All right, I gotta roll. It's been 2 hours. All right.
So I'll send all the stuff. If you can, while you're away, document your practice. At least keep a log of what you did and when, and it would also be helpful to take, I guess, random sample videos of your form. You know, just like on the day to day to see how it actually evolves over time.
I don't know. I feel like it'll be good to hit the pad while I'm gone and just doing like singles with the motion. You know what I mean? Just to like
actually
condition it.
What would be a lot better than the pad would be to use a hotel pillow.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because this is a reboundless motion, and you want you want to really understand the downstroke here, and the pad encourages an upstroke. So I would say just do it on the mattress or the pillows.
Wow. Okay.
That's really what you want. The only pad that I've ever used is the Moon Gel pad, which has 0 rebounds. You know, and I do everything that I do on that pad. Right, because the technique, unless I'm playing a press roll, it doesn't involve bouncing the sticks. It's active motion the whole time. Can't hear you.
You're anti-bounce.
Anti-bounce in the context when open close or single close in active ranges of motion are necessary to achieve a certain sonic result and a certain biomechanical result. But sometimes bounce is important, you know. That's why I say I use all 4 grips. I use passive and active motions.
Right.
If I were to play a roll on the tom like Max Roach, that's going to be a very different biomechanical process than a Billy Cobham or Tony Williams.
Right.
So what is Max Roach not as great a technician as Tony Williams? They're different players. It's impossible to say there's only a singular perspective on how to play a role. It doesn't work like that.
Test, test, test.
Yep.
Test, test, test. Weird. You're only coming out of my left speaker for some reason, but I am getting stereo. Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, yeah. I'll send the stuff now. In terms of scheduling for our next session, you're going to be away until when?
Well, the next few weeks are a little bit hectic for me. I will be. Hold on 1 second. So I get back. Hold on. Okay. I'm gone Thursday to Thursday. I'm back Friday the 18th.
18th. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why you're mono.
Are the drums mono?
Yeah. You're just in my left channel.
Not on my end then, because it's
Weird.
stereo over here.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Doesn't matter.
so you say you're coming back on the 18th. So that would be
right.
end of not this week, but the end of next week.
Yeah, I leave Thursday the 10th.
Okay.
And I'm back Thursday the 17th.
So,
Back on the 17th. So I'm saying like I'd be available on the 18th. Why don't we do Sunday the 20th? Does that work for you?
I was just about to suggest that. That should work for me.
Sunday the 20th is great. And then I'm going to my farm for a week to record music.
Okay. So okay, I put it in. So okay, so the 20th. Yeah, so next time we will get into open close and we'll start also talking about lower body. And then also we'll go over part of the report of findings detailing what we worked on today so you can see the difference in what you've been working on for those 2 weeks as opposed to what we were doing before, or what you were doing before.
Whoops. Stop it. Okay. Sounds great, man. I gotta go be a dad.
Do it.
Big love. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Excited.
Enjoy your trip. We will be in touch.
Peace.
All right. Take care.